Boop. Hey,
and we're back.
Hey, we're back. Part two. Ooh,
Jinx.
Beautiful. We're getting better. We're getting better. Tighter. We're gonna submit to the Olympics.
Nice. We're synchronized swimmers over here.
Synchronized podcasters.
Speakers,
yeah.
Synchronized speakers.
Sphincters.
Sphincters.
Oh
What
God,
the fuck?
that's it. Should be in the Olympics. I mean, that's something.
That is definitely something.
Yeah, we're catching up. We're catching up from the last few weeks. Lots to catch up on. That's why there's a part two.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you would have been here for a while.
That probably like another at least solid hour and a half.
For sure.
That's
For
why
sure.
I was like, should we just wait?
Long legs, more like sore legs from sitting on the floor.
Oh, sorry, bud.
But yeah, no. Who knows? Maybe this episode will zip on by.
Part two was only 30 minutes.
Yeah, we could have just done the one. So I watched The Rental was the name of the movie.
Okay.
I think I told you I did not like this movie. I was at least glad that I bought it for $1.
Yeah, because you said that's all it was worth.
Yes,
I remember
100%. Because like I'd heard about it because it's bringing it back to Dave Franco. He wrote and directed this movie.
Oh, yep. No, okay. Yep.
Yeah, he wrote and directed this movie, and it's about these two sets of like couple friends who, I'll back it up. So, had a decent cast. Alison Brie from Community is in it, and like a shit ton of other stuff.
Yeah.
Dave Franco's wife. That's probably why she's in it. Jeremy Allen White was in it, and Dan Stevens, who I'm a big fan of both those guys. I love Jeremy Allen White. He's been killing it on The Bear. He's getting ready to, I don't know if you saw, he's playing Jabba the Hutt's son in upcoming Star Wars movie. Which I feel like, I'm not sure about this. This is a whole other tangent, but like, I feel like it's the character from the Clone Wars that like Ahsoka always calls Stinky or something like that. Yeah,
because he was stinky.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming it's like a voice.
I'm guessing. I don't know.
But like the thing is like the Jabbas had their own language. So is he just speaking Jabba the whole time?
The fuck out of me.
Very curious. Very interesting to hear that.
Stinky probably had a different upbringing.
I mean, if I don't know, I'd be thrown the fuck off if Jabba's the son.
He just shows up looking like Jeremy Allen White.
Well, when I first when he said that, I was like, what kind of fucking Star Wars movie is this going to be? But no, it'd be, if he even just spoke like English, I would be thrown off by that.
What? But no, Jeremy Allen White, and then Dan Stevens, he was in Godzilla and Kong this year. He was in Abigail this year. He was in Cuckoo this year. He had a big fucking year this last year.
Who was he in Godzilla and Kong?
He was the like the vet guy. You know what I'm talking about? Like that fixed his tooth and all that stuff. Yeah. Was my favorite character in that movie, honestly.
Yeah, he was kind of like the wild card a little.
Yeah, a little bit.
He was,
ended up being a good guy though, which is a nice twist on that type of character. I feel like. But I love Dan Stevens. I love Jeremy Allen White. So I was like, I'll definitely check this out if they're both in it. And it was just one of those movies that like some of this shit you see coming from a mile away. And matter of fact, I don't even mind spoiling this for you because it was.
We already did.
Well then, fucking, I'll do it twice. It was just not good, man. It was one of those, it was a short movie. But, like, I mean, Dan Stevens and Jeremy Allen White, they play brothers. And from the jump, the other actress, apologies to not know who you are, but she's with Jeremy's character.
Gotcha.
And we're on a first name basis now because I'm not going to keep saying his full name.
You shouldn't.
So this other chick, she's with Jeremy's character. Alison Brie's character is with Dan Stevens' character. And the first like scene of this movie, you see Dan Stevens and the other chick, and it's like, okay, they work together, but they're giving strong vibes,
right?
You know, and they're like planning this trip to get the Airbnb and everything. And so then the four of them go to the Airbnb, and so like from the jump, I'm like, well, I see where that's fucking going. Like, I'm sure the brother's gonna fuck his brother's girlfriend at some point or another. And he does. So that was not
first night.
Was not shocking to me. I think it was the first night. And so they get to this Airbnb.
It's like, just go to a hotel. Like, why would you bring the significant others along with you? You guys are just gonna fuck.
And it's like, what's stupid is like, it's not, there's not even a point to get into.
That's too risky. Like, who would like? I mean,
oh, it was dumb as fuck, dude. Because the brother was like, they're both in the house. They're both in the house.
Yeah.
The one chick was just like asleep, perfectly like fine. She was just asleep. And then he was like a little fucked up off of ecstasy, but he also had gone to sleep. And it's just like, what, they're not going to hear y'all in the shower? Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, whatever. But, like, the dude who, like, lets him in and stuff, like, this is what I was getting ready to say. It's almost pointless to even tell you, like, the things that happen in this movie, the build-up, the intricate details, because they don't amount to jack shit. They don't mean anything. Like, in the grand scheme of this movie, they're fucking pointless. Like, because, like, Jeremy's girlfriend in this is, like, I think she's Indian, maybe, or Middle Eastern, or something. I don't know. But it's, like, alluded, like, oh, the guy who let him into the Airbnb might be racist and all this stuff. And so, like, there's, like, all these little, like, breadcrumbs. And then, like, it keeps being alluded to that there's going to be this killer that, like, comes and, like, terrorizes them at this Airbnb. And it all happens, like, in the last 15 minutes, where this guy shows up and, like, starts picking people off, and, like, oh, they find out a little earlier on, oh, there's a camera in the shower, and, like, oh my god, they're like, and he starts freaking out because they fucked in the shower, and there's footage of them, and that's going to ruin their relationships, and blah, 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 blah.
It made me think of, a little sidebar, made me think of Strange Wilderness. When dude catches the guy having sex with his wife.
With the hidden cameras, yeah. And so, like, I don't know, what follows is just a bunch of stupid decisions being made from that point forward, and it's just like, it feels like a lot of unnecessary shit happens, and then the killer shows up. And it feels like a totally separate movie from what I've been watching the whole time. Like, it's like all this drama going on between these four people, and then a killer shows up, and then the killer, like, kills everybody. And lo and behold, who's the killer? Oh, nobody. This is literally nobody. Because I even said, like, we still had, like, I don't know, 20 minutes of this movie left, and I just looked at Belle and I go, there's no chance in hell this movie is going to have a satisfying ending. Because now it's trying to imply that this killer is not one of the only 5 characters we've met in this whole movie. You're just gonna, at the last fucking minute, like, and I'm talking not just like, okay, here are the 5 characters you've seen the whole movie. There's not even like a 6th character that gets mentioned. Right. Like, nobody ever talks about, oh, well, my dad, or no, like, there's nothing like that. Other than, like, the Airbnb guy being like, well, this is actually my brother's place. I'm like, okay, well, that means nothing to me. Like, and at the end, it's not even his fucking brother. Like, it's literally just some random fucking guy who kills everybody, and then he, like, at the end, it even goes as far to show him, like, get another Airbnb and, like, rig it up with cameras and shit, and then, like, kill the next people. And that all happens within, like, 2 to 3 minutes. So I'm like, so what you're telling me is I just sat here for a goddamn hour and a half watching a movie that you could have spelled out for me in 3 minutes.
Yeah, and I feel like even if you're going to go that route to where the movie's about a guy going around killing people in Airbnbs, and make the movie about that. Don't make it about like this love triangle between these 2 brothers.
It was pointless. And a total waste of a great cast, too.
Yeah, I was about to say, it sounds like a good cast.
And it's funny because, so, like, the movie ended, the credits start rolling, and I see the written by credits, and it was Dave Franco and Joe Swanberg. And Joe Swanberg is one of the guys who came on the scene when VHS came out. He directed one of the segments in that, and then, like, would go on to write, like, a few other, like, horror movies and just, like, dramas around that time.
Right.
But he's, like, notorious for making movies that just go fuck all nowhere. And so when that movie was over and I saw his name in the credits, I go,
makes sense.
Makes sense. Had I known that before this movie started, then I probably would have been like, okay, this is gonna go nowhere. Like, but yeah, I was just not a fan. But hey, bought it for $1 at the Dollar Tree, so can't hate on that.
I'll have to. I'll even go as far as to watch it, just
to confirm.
Yeah, because I don't mind watching a bad movie every once in a while.
Yeah, it's just for me, like, at least be fun.
Especially if I get to watch it for free. Like, I don't have to spend the $1. Shit.
Right.
Shit.
The $1 was just to put it on my shelf and say I have it. Whenever I'm friends with Dan Stevens and Jeremy Allen White, I'd be like, look, I got this too.
It's like, what's that?
They'll be like, we don't talk about that.
No one does. Is it?
It's your turn.
Is it my turn?
Yep.
So what I have next on my list is coincidentally another movie that I didn't care for.
Oh yay!
And that's a ghost story.
Sheesh.
And I don't know, like, because I enjoy. Was it Mara Rooney?
Yeah, like Mara or some
Mara
shit.
Rooney or some bullshit like that. And
is that what Rooney's sister it is in that one?
Yeah.
What the fuck is the other one? Wait. Flip it. Rooney Mara.
Yes.
Because the sister's Kate Mara.
Yeah. Okay.
Gotcha.
Because wasn't she also the chick from A Girl with a Dragon Tattoo?
Yes. Yeah.
And so I enjoyed her performance in that, which I think I talked about earlier on a different episode.
She's a great actress.
And then it had his name's eluding me, Casey Affleck.
Yeah.
Who I also enjoy his movies from time to time. And I just felt like the movie just didn't do anything. Like, there was, like, I guess, like, a few cool shots or whatever. Because pretty much is about this couple living together. And then, I don't know if maybe I missed something, but then he's just dead.
Yeah.
Like, it never explained how he died, what happened. It just, I remember watching it, and then, like, the next thing I know is, like, she is confirming that his body was dead at the morgue. And then he stood up with, which I will say is probably one of the weirdest choices for a fucking ghost costume.
To be like a literal sheet.
With like the black eyes.
Yeah.
And so then he's just watching the life throughout this house.
Yeah.
And so he's watching his wife be sad. Eat a whole pie. Like, literally eats a whole pie.
One of the stupidest fucking scenes in that whole movie.
And then throws up.
As one would do if you just sit there and eat a whole pie.
Yeah, get like a pint of ice cream. Don't eat a whole pie.
Yeah.
Like, the real estate agent comes over and talks about some shit. I don't know what that was about. So then at one point she's like starting to move on because she still has a life to live. Like,
as one does.
And so she, like, this guy comes over and you see, like, his ghost sheet just start to ruffle a little bit. Like, he's just not happy about
Casey Affleck in a performance of a lifetime.
about what he's seeing. And then takes it out on a completely different family. Because then, like, then she's just gone. And so now he's just in this empty house. And then this, like, Mexican family moves in. And then he just starts throwing their dishes around at one point. He's, like, walking around. He's hiding in the kid's closet at one point, who I guess could see him. Because he shoots him with the gun or whatever. And then he kind of just steps out and just leaves. I mean, I guess there was, like, the paranormal stuff going on. So, like, maybe you couldn't see him, but he knew his presence was there, I'm assuming, is what was going on. And then freaks the family out. They move out. And then, like, this, I don't know, I guess these, like, I'm assuming would be, like, people in their 20s buy the house. And they're, like, having this big party. And this guy's just talking about how life doesn't matter. And he goes on this whole, like, exposition about, like, how nothing matters. And, like, everything, and then that lasted for about 5-10 minutes as you just see Casey Affleck just standing in corners of rooms just like watching things. And so then it keeps fast forwarding, And now the house is gone, and so he's just kind of looking around like, what the fuck? And like this big skyscraper gets built, and this is where it really started to lose me. Is like, I was already didn't care because it was such a boring movie to begin with, and so he climbs up on the skyscraper and jumps off. And what I don't understand is how the fuck that sent him back in time. So because then he goes to like this pioneer family, who gets killed by Indians. And then he just stares at this girl's dead body till it's like decomposed. Yeah. And then eventually the house gets rebuilt at some point, and then him and his wife move back into the house, and so then it's kind of showing the relationship through like a different point of view, and the relationship wasn't all as hunky dory as like they made it seem in the beginning of the movie, where they were having marital problems because he didn't want to leave the house. He enjoyed staying there, I guess so much to where he couldn't fucking leave ever. After he died. But he walked back to the house. Yeah. And when he was dead anyways. And like, I don't know, there was like a scene where he kept waving at another ghost, like across the street. Yeah. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm waiting. For what? I don't remember. And then that was it. I was like, okay. Like, you're all just kind of just here. And it just never went anywhere. And then the movie ended. I was like, what a fucking waste of time. Like,
that was one of those movies the first time I saw it that, like, even now, I'm like, I get it. Like, I get what you're going for.
Yeah,
I get the metaphor of it all. I get it, but I just don't enjoy it.
I just don't care.
No, it's such a boring fucking movie.
And then the next one I watched would be Zone of Interest.
Oh, yeah.
Which I watched because it won an Oscar for, like, sound design or whatever. And that was literally the only interesting thing about the movie.
That was about your zone of interest.
Because, I mean, it's about, like, this guy, like, this head SS officer who's, like, kind of, like, in charge of, like, Auschwitz or whatever. Yeah. And, so his family's, like, living right outside the camp or whatever. So, like, throughout the whole movie, you hear, like, gunshots and women and people screaming and stuff like that, and how they kind of just, like, ignore it for the most part. And then, like, they talked about building different gas chambers to be more efficient, stuff like that. And then he gets, like, promoted, and then he has to move, and the wife doesn't want to leave. And then like more stuff happens, and then the movie ends, and I was checked out towards the end. I was just like, I don't care. And he because it didn't get into like the concentration camps. It didn't really seem to get into anything.
I mean, I don't even think that was the point. Like, it's one that I will probably still watch at some point.
I mean, you should.
Because I do think
solely based on me not enjoying it.
Yes. But I do think it's one of those movies where, like, that is the point of, like, not going into the concentration camps. Like, it's just trying to show, like, this is what it's like if you live next door to the concentration camp and just try to like live your life.
And that aspect was cool because, I mean, obviously there was like some characters who had like conflicting feelings about obviously what the fuck was going on, and so it's like just either pretending like it's not happening or just like the way that they deal with it. I mean, there's one scene where they're fishing. And like you can see like ashes like in the river or whatever, and so he's like, "Oh, well, time to go." And so like he just gets the kids and leaves. And so I mean stuff happens, but it's just like I don't know. It was cool, and I mean, I still the hearing all the sounds and stuff like that is still like the best part of the movie. Other than that, it's just kind of meh.
Yeah. I can see where it might be a little dry, for sure.
Yeah,
that's my problem.
It was like a slow burn.
Yeah,
and it was late when I watched it. I just watched it after I watched A Ghost Story, so I did not pick two good movies to watch back to back like that.
No, it sounds like a snooze fest.
But my goal also was around like this time period, as I wanted to try to watch all the A24 movies that was on HBO Max already, which is why I watched. Some that I'll even talk about later. So, I mean, it was all right. I do think it deserved its Oscar for the sound design and stuff, but other than that, the story itself was just a little flat.
I feel feel like that happens, from time to time. You just get like a good story. I feel like with both of those movies. I haven't seen The Zone of Interest, but like both of those movies, it's one of those things where it's like, I get it, like I get the point, but like, was the execution interesting? Like, was I interested? And that's not even to say, I'm sure there are fans of both of these movies.
Oh, for sure.
Weirdly enough, there are people out there who like a ghost story for whatever fucking reason.
I watched a ghost story. I was like, I could do better than that. I feel like.
Yeah, I just feel like there is a way to like get your point across with it. Like, I almost feel like now talking about a ghost story again, it's like, is the point of this to tell us that if we were watching haunted house movies from the ghost perspectives, it would be fucking boring as shit? Because that's kind of what it feels like. It's like, hey, you know what life as a ghost is like? Hella boring. So boring. It's just you kicking around in corners all fucking day. You just
can't go anywhere or do anything. So.
Just lingering.
Well, now it's back to you, your big dog.
Weird side question, because I don't know if this is actually on Max right now or not, but if it is, A24 wise, have you seen Marcel the Shell?
It's not on there.
It's not on there?
And I have not seen it.
Too bad. That's a good one.
I really wanted to see it when, I think because the trailer was coming out around the time we watched Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah.
And I was like, fuck, I got emotional watching the trailer.
Dude,
it's
such a cute movie.
I was like, I watched the shit out of this thing.
Because I didn't know that they were like YouTube videos before.
Neither did I.
But apparently Belle and her best friend were super into them back in the day. So she was excited to go see the movie. I was like, all right, bet, let's go see this movie.
I don't need a real excuse.
And it was. It was beautiful. It's just such a beautiful, sweet movie. And I even rewatched it when we had our son and we were still in the hospital. They had some video on demand flicks, and Marcel the Shell had just gotten put on there. I was like, well, I'm watching this because it's just such a nice little. I don't know. I feel like as much as we like our dark stuff.
I like a little lightness in my life.
But I like stuff like that specifically. Like Marcel, I feel like is just one of those movies that not only is it it's just a genuine feel good movie. I just it doesn't feel like fluff. It doesn't feel like they're not skimping on the emotional stuff, but they're just hey, it ain't all that bad. It's just it's a beautiful movie. Anyways,
I like One Robot.
Yeah. Again, a feel-good movie, but didn't shy away from darker emotional things. Love it. But to go into things that are light and frothy, I watched Sonic the Hedgehog.
Love it.
And I rewatched Sonic the Hedgehog, watched Sonic the Hedgehog 2 for the first time, back to back. I enjoyed the first Sonic way more the second time around. I don't know. It's not that I didn't like it when we saw it in theaters.
I thought we both enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it, but I guess I don't know. That first viewing, it just was what it was. I guess it's oh, okay, it's more for kids, whatever. But, not that that's an issue, but watching it the second time around, I don't know what it was, but I was just God damn it, this movie is just so much fun.
It is a lot of fun. I love the humor in it.
It's goofy. It's silly at times, but I love watching Jim Carrey in these movies too. Honestly, if this is what keeps Jim Carrey from retiring, then by all means keep making Sonic the Hedgehog movies. Because I love that he's playing two characters in the next movie. I can't wait to go see Sonic 3. Because he's playing his own grandfather or some shit.
Oh, I haven't watched the trailers.
You don't watch trailers, so how would you know?
I don't know. I didn't know he was playing two characters until just now.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that first one the second time. I basically watched it twice because I turned it on for Charlie when we were just doing stuff around the house one day. And it was just playing the whole time in the background. And then the next day I was like, okay, well, I do want to watch this movie, so I'm going to start it from the beginning. No, it's a lot of fun. And then the second one, as you know, I love Tails. They brought in Tails, and Knuckles was a lot more fun than I expected him to be.
He was a lot of fun.
He's a character. There's something about that kind of character, that meathead, like very simple. Drax is very much like this.
Yeah.
Where he's just like the lovable tough guy.
Yeah.
Because he's just a little aloof. He's just.
But he wasn't super lovable.
Not as lovable at first.
At first, yeah. He was very, very hardened.
I feel like there's a lot of things like from like when I saw the marketing and just little bits and pieces that I'd seen from Sonic 2, I was like, I didn't know how it was going to pan out. I didn't know how it was going to work. But then watching the movie and seeing all the pieces like play into each other, I was like, okay. Like one of my big things was like, why is Knuckles working with Robotnik? But then once I saw the movie, I was like, okay, well that makes more sense. Plus, like I love that. Like I started thinking about it. And like Jim Carrey, when he plays villains specifically, I feel like goes back to like a very similar well every time. Because like his Robotnik performance is like, I'm seeing bits of The Grinch. I'm seeing bits of Count Olaf from Series of Unfortunate Events. Like he's a fun villain. He is a fun villain. And Jim Carrey is obviously having the time of his life playing this role.
Right.
And it's just so fun to watch him be the smartest guy in the room, and like his relationship with Agent Stone and all that shit. Like it's just so fucking funny. Yeah, it's a blast. I loved the whole thing at the end of the second movie with like the sister who's getting married, and the whole thing is just a setup by the FBI. And she just loses it. As one would when you find out that your whole relationship was a sham. But
God, on your wedding day.
On your wedding day. Hysterical. No, I enjoyed it. I mean, I don't have much to say about them. They're fun. And,
they were fun.
It's one I've heard people have really liked the third one. Everybody says that the movies just kind of keep getting better and better.
Yeah.
Which I feel that with 2. I feel like 2 was a big improvement over 1. Like, just I feel like it was bigger in scope and everything. And I love a good like speedster sequence, in a movie. I mean, they're great. They're so much fun, and it's always fun to see how people do them. Like, I mean, those are standouts in like the X-Men movies with Quicksilver. So much so they did it like 2 or 3 times. They were like, "You like it? We'll fucking do it again." And I know that Sonic's version in that first movie is essentially the same fucking thing as the Quicksilver version. But goddamn it, it's still fun just to watch like time freeze and them run around and do all the shit that they do, and then everything just kicks back up again. It's a blast. I love the music they used in it. It's just like that's probably my favorite scene in the first movie. Is when they get into that bar fight. But yeah,
love Sonic,
and I started Knuckles, but I didn't. I'm not that far into it.
Yeah, well, I enjoyed about Knuckles because I watched the second one. I should have watched the first one, then watched the second one, and then watched Knuckles. What I did enjoy about Knuckles is like he comes around like at the end of the second one.
Yeah.
And I feel like they really just were able to, like, drive home, like, that full transformation into, like, a good guy.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, pretty much you said what you watched, like, the first episode?
Yeah.
I mean, it pretty much sets it up. His whole thing is he doesn't feel like he has a home.
Right, yeah.
Right. And so then, like, it's just building those relationships and, like, making them feel like, I have purpose here, So, I mean, that was cool. I know you said something about it. It should have been called Wade featuring Knuckles.
That's what other people say.
Those weren't your words.
Not my words.
Those were someone else's words.
It's the internet's words.
And I just think the internet is a little harsh.
All the time.
Because I started Knuckles, because we watched Sonic the Hedgehog 2, and then Knuckles, like, just came out recently. Yeah. And so I was like... I watched like the first episode, and I was like probably the same way you were feeling. You're like, I don't really know, but I continued to watch it, and then like at a certain point, I was like, down for it. I'm down for the bro trip with Knuckles and Wade, and they had a fun time together. So hopefully you stick it out.
I mean, I will say this. I mean, as many people like bitched about like the Wade thing, I actually do like that actor who plays Wade. I do think he's a funny guy. He's actually in this fantastic movie called Band-Aid that I feel like is a little, the fuck is the word I'm looking for? Underrated flick. Where it's like about this couple who they're going through a lot of shit in their relationship. And things are rocky, and then the way they kind of decide to start working through some of their stuff is they start a band together, and they start writing songs about like the shit that they're like getting into all the time and stuff. But then there's like a whole other level to it at the end that I was like, damn, this was a deeply emotional movie.
Oh yeah.
But
yeah, because I will say, even like with watching the first two Sonics, like Wade was never my favorite character. He was just like a little goofy for me. And so when I found out that it was gonna be like Knuckles and Wade together, I'm like, I don't know about this, but I turn around. I'm a little Team Wade now that I got to know him a little bit better. And there was some really like heartwarming moments throughout the show and stuff like that. Yeah. So
I am stoked to see. I mean, up there with Tails is Shadow. I love Shadow the Hedgehog, and so the fact that that's what's next.
Yeah,
I'm pretty stoked.
By Keanu Reeves?
It is.
Yeah, because I saw a little thing.
Hell of a voice cast too.
I didn't realize that Idris Elba was.
Yeah,
Knuckles.
He's so good. He's so good as Knuckles.
And what's funny is that would be a great segue into my next movie, which was Prometheus.
Oh.
Which Idris Elba was in, and I would argue might have been
the best part of
that movie. There was one like so. I've been watching all the Alien movies over the past couple months.
You sound like you're confessing something. All right, I'll tell you. I've been watching the Alien movies.
Well, because I watched them right before we started the podcast. So I don't think I've ever even got into any of them. Maybe the first episode, but I don't think so. I forgot to bring it up. I'm not going to get into all of them right now either.
No, another time. Whenever I rewatch them, we can get back into it.
But so, and I know you said you weren't like a big fan of like Prometheus and stuff, and so I was a little hesitant on watching them. So, I guess I finally decided to watch it, and I don't know. I just feel like it wasn't a good alien movie, but it was a decent enough sci-fi movie. Like, I didn't mind the stuff, like, with the creator and that aspect, if that was its own thing. I don't really understand what that has to do with aliens. Like, it never at all explained, like, how the two were ever correlated, really, as far as
I feel like that's a pretty common opinion about this movie.
I mean, because they literally didn't show any alien until like the last scene when it shows like the alien bursting out of like one of the creator's chests, or whatever, and then which was also weird because then it was like almost like a teenage alien. It should have been like smaller,
right?
I felt like, because like when they pop out of the chest, like in the originals, it's like just like the little head.
Right,
and not like an actual fucking alien. So I was like, well, what a cheap way to fucking try to bring the two. Like, it just didn't feel like an alien movie at all. So I was just like, so that was like my biggest hang up. And so I'm curious. I'm gonna watch Covenant probably.
Yeah.
Might watch it tonight, to be honest.
Well, I'll be curious to talk Covenant next week,
because I'd be curious to see if, because I know you said it was like just like a little teaser, like first half like one of the best alien movies, second half,
well, not even necessarily like the first half of the movie, second half of the movie. I just mean like it's 50% a great Alien sequel and 50% another bullshit Prometheus movie. Like,
so I'll be curious to see how the two, if they tie in more together or if they try to bridge that story arc.
Honestly, I really don't remember, because like in my head, like a handful of distinct things stand out about Covenant. Like one, the cast was like a little more unique. Danny McBride is in it. James Franco's in it for 2 seconds. But like the scenes that I think of that are like, yes, this is a great Alien sequel, or like they had really great sequences with the aliens.
Yeah.
But then there's some other shit that happens with Michael Fassbender that it's just fucking stupid. And it's a lot more Prometheus bullshit. And you'll know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about once you watch it.
I will, back on Prometheus, one thing I will say is, like, I usually like to root for the androids. I mean, I guess in the first one he was a bad guy.
I feel like they're usually bad guys.
Not in the second one. Bishop was the fucking man. He saved him pretty much.
I guess I'll have to go back and rewatch them because I remember that being like a thing where like I felt like every time the android ended up being bad, I'm like, when are we going to fucking learn?
Yeah, no, the second one he was good.
Good.
Sigourney Weaver definitely had reservations because of what happened in the first one, so she was very standoffish with the android.
Well, and I will say this, if you didn't know this, before you get to Alien Romulus, apparently Romulus takes place between the first and second movie.
Gotcha. So like that, well, however many years between, it was like, because, I mean, she was like would have been like hundreds of years later between the first two anyways.
Between the first two or between 2 and 3? It's honestly
between
been so
the first two, because in the first one she goes into like the chamber.
Oh, yeah.
And then the second one is when she wakes up like hundreds of years later and they're like, we need your help. And she's like, fuck no. And then they say, and she's like, yeah, okay. And then goes anyways. I'm like, if you were so like dead set on not wanting to go, like there's no way they would have been able to talk you into going.
I do need to rewatch these because it's definitely been like 10 years since the last time I watched all of these movies.
I'll almost rewatch them again if you rewatch them just to have a more clear-headed idea of. I'll take notes. I definitely have little rants to go on.
Right now, I feel like I've got feelings on every Alien movie.
Yeah,
but these are like feelings from like 10 years ago. So like, I definitely would.
My feelings are a little bit newer. But
other than Romulus,
which I also haven't seen yet. Yeah. But like the whole thing, like with the android, just like he was just being extra shady, like the whole time in Prometheus. I'm like, I don't like you. And then like, I don't know, and then like he gets all fucked up towards the end. Mm-hmm. He's like, oh well, I'm free now, like I don't have a master, so I'll help you out. It's like, fuck you, dude. Like you essentially killed her husband.
Yeah.
And then try to make her give birth to a fucking alien baby, which like that C-section scene was interesting.
I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch some of these because I'm definitely I feel like I'm most curious to hear your feelings on Romulus just because you have just gone on this journey like within the last few months.
Yeah.
So since it's all fresh and like I because my thing was like expectation was the killer of
well, I mean, I will say I don't like the Alien franchise as a whole.
Right.
So
I'm a big fan.
I'm able to go into it with the expectations that I'm not going to like it to begin with. So,
although I am beginning to question myself, I don't know if it is fair to say I'm a big fan
you were
of the
a fan
Alien
10
franchise.
years ago.
No, I think I'm a fan of Alien. I think I'm a fan of the first movie. And
the second one was good.
Well, and people, I mean, you got your two camps. You got your Alien fans, you got your Aliens fans.
I'd say I enjoy Aliens more than Aliens.
Which I totally get. They're very different experiences.
They are, and they're meant to be.
Yes, Aliens is a far more electric experience. It's more action-packed, you know. But I enjoy the first one because of that, like, slow burn atmosphere.
Yeah, there's, like, the sounds.
The horror, you know,
the emptiness of it all.
Yeah, I like the vibe of the first movie.
I can get that. It's just...
So to me, when Romulus came out,
slow burn.
I'm just like, okay, cool. We're taking it back to its roots. It's getting scary. We got Fede Alvarez coming to direct this thing, who did the Evil Dead remake and Don't Breathe. Like, I was here for it. And, like, I don't know. Part of me wants to just blame it on my hype for it, like being disappointed in it. But I feel like it was, I don't know, I feel like it was more than that. I feel like it was because it turned out to be another fucking Prometheus movie. I was like, God damn it.
So we'll see.
Trick me again.
We'll see how I feel.
I am curious because it is one I feel like I do need to give a second watch, but I don't think my opinion on certain parts of the movie are going to change.
Probably not.
Yeah.
So we'll get off of the Prometheus. We'll do a little Alien.
We'll just do a whole Alien episode.
because I also watch all the Predators, so I would like to go through and
that would be fun.
Because we were gonna do an Aliens and Predators little mini series when we originally started, which is why I watched all the Alien and Prometheus movie or Predator movies, and so. But I would gladly rewatch them, especially Predator. Those are a lot easier to digest than the Alien movies, just because Alien movies are just all over the fucking place.
They really
like. The story to them is very weird. Yeah. A lot of weird choices that they made. Especially
now I'm excited.
Especially in regard to Sigourney Weaver's story arc as whole. But that's a whole thing. We have to get more into that, but I'll digress and move on to the next one, which I don't have a whole lot to say about, but it was the First Purge.
Okay. Gotcha.
It was. I watched all the other ones over in October, I think, right? And then the First Purge was the only one I couldn't watch. And so you had it on your Vudu account, so I watched it there because I needed to watch something. I was like, I'll watch it, and it was cool. It was all right. It was interesting to see like the First Purge happen, and I've already complained about this before about the whole like government class like manipulation like tone to like the whole series, which they really just leaned in. They doubled down on that, like in the First.
You made a movie called Anarchy, and you still couldn't double down on the anarchy.
You know, and so because like what pissed me off about it the most, I'll say, is like so. It was obviously an experiment to see like how people would react in like a setting, or whatever. And people weren't really purging; they just were doing a lot of drugs and having sex. And there was, your occasional psycho that would go and murder someone, or people looting and stuff like that. But it wasn't what the NFFA was hoping for. They wanted complete chaos, and so they just started sending mercenaries to just start killing a bunch of people to give the illusion that they were purging more than what they were purging, to get to fix the results, to like, now it's justified that people want to purge, and it's because that was like their whole thing, that to get them into office was banking on people wanting to purge. And so they did that, and then they're like, now we can start doing a nationwide purge. And that was pretty much
the First Purge.
And that was pretty much the movie. Like,
it is, yeah.
There isn't too much, like, the acting was okay. Like, there wasn't, like, any, like, standout performances, and the story itself was fine.
I don't expect much out of the Purge movies. There's not one that I don't like. I mean, I like them all.
I enjoy
there's none of them that I'm like, I'd never die on the hill of the Purge. Like,
don't get me wrong. Like, I enjoyed it. I feel like if I were to give my own ranking of them, I still feel like the First Purge was the best one.
Well, yeah.
I mean, because it's just like, I felt like that's just more of the tone that I wanted to go with.
The original Purge movie, to be clear, not the film, The First Purge.
Yes, the OG, The Purge with
the Ethan Hawke Purge.
With Ethan Hawke, and
once Ethan Hawke was gone, it was destined to be downhill.
Then I would almost say, the Forever Purge, Purge Anarchy election year.
Gotcha.
And I'd throw the First Purge maybe in between election year and anarchy. I'd put election year as last, because I thought that was stupid, because the whole thing was like they finished and then she got into office and like, we're gonna still purge, even though her whole thing was to stop the purge.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, well then you just wasted fucking 2 hours of my time acting like we were gonna get to a different result just to continue to do the same thing. So I mean, I don't know. I don't hate the Purge series, but it's not my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where like I like it. I enjoy watching it. Like I watched all of them the year the Forever Purge came out, so it's been a while now. It's been like 3 or 4 years. But I don't know. Like it's the kind of series that like it's been 3 or 4 years. I'm like, I'd go back and rewatch all of them because they're all short.
Yeah, they're like an hour
sit down and
each.
take them all in pretty quick. Like And they just are what they are.
Yeah,
they're just fun little popcorn entertainment.
They're just like people killing people, essentially.
More or less, but never living up to that.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like there's a good premise there. Like it's a good like idea. I just feel like I don't know. You could do more with it. I feel like.
I feel you. I feel like that happens though with movies, like where they got like a lofty concept and they never quite live up to the concept.
Yeah,
but
I mean, and then like even if you want to go like in the class aspect, I feel like you can dive more into like the whole like different classes of people and how it's affecting like the rich people versus the poor.
Right.
And I would do one where it's like the poor people try to take over all the rich people.
Right.
Like if that's like like if it's such a class thing, I feel like there should be more of a class. I mean,
because you haven't seen the TV show, right?
I have not.
I also
don't understand how it could be a TV show.
I mean, it's the same. It's the same way as the movies. It's just the Purge. It's the day of the Purge. I started the first episode and I just never got around to actually sitting down to watch it. I heard it was decent, but like I wonder if it doesn't delve into a little bit more of that kind of stuff.
It might. I might have to give it a chance just because I have seen the whole series at this point. It'd be kind of silly not to watch the show.
I kind of feel the same way. All right. Well, my last two are also on your list, I believe.
Well, I have 6 more.
6 more? You jumping around on me?
No.
Oh, I see.
I have 5 more.
I see it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then what I'll do is I'll save these 2 movies and I'll talk about the TV shows
Gotcha.
that I watched. So I got a few shows in. Typically, I feel like our kind of unspoken rule of thumb is...
Okay, well, I have 3 more plus the 2 we've seen.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I feel like our kind of unspoken rule of thumb is that we don't... I feel like we'll bring up TV shows, but we don't really talk about TV shows unless we've actually watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
So the ones that I actually finished watching, the week of Christmas, What If Season 3 came out. And I know you're not caught up on that yet. So I won't get like super into it or anything, but I'm
still gonna watch it regardless.
Well, true. But like season 1 was like one of the first MCU things that I was just like, this was weak. Like I did not care much for this. And then season 2 came out and just completely made a fan out of me. I was just like, season 2 was phenomenal. It just had so many good episodes, introducing new characters, all that stuff. I forget, did you say you saw season 2? Or I
believe so, because that's where they introduced the Native American chick and stuff.
Cohorty, or whatever her name is.
Because then they like make their own like Avengers at the end.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah. And so, really enjoyed the second season. Made me very excited for the third season. And then they were like, okay, well, the third is the final. Like, that's it. And then we're done. And the way that season 2 ended with that little, like, tease at the end that, like, tied it into Loki season 2 and everything, I was like, oh, shit. Like, people were like, oh, what if doesn't even matter? It doesn't even have an effect on the MCU, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, I bet it fucking will. And so season 3 was a mixed bag. I mostly enjoyed the episodes. I liked some of the concepts they played with. I liked some of the characters that they, like, brought in this time around. Definitely, like, some standout episodes to me. Some people are back and forth on this. There's an episode where Darcy from, like...
Oh, yeah, I remember you're talking about
It's Darcy and Howard the Duck have a fucking kid together. I loved this episode. I just thought it was a fucking blast. Like, it's just like one of those, anything that could go wrong does. And they bring up so many, like, different characters throughout this episode. And what I love even more is that it even pays off by the end of the season. Like, there's still more to this story with their kid.
Right.
And I hope to see this character in live action one of these days. But they had a cool episode. There was like a Western episode with Shang-Chi, who I'm a big Shang-Chi fan. So it was just nice to see him back in action. And then definitely one of the coolest episodes was in this, like, it was what if the Emergence destroyed Earth? So like the Emergence in Eternals.
Yeah.
If it actually went down and happened, like what if it destroyed the Earth in the process? And so like in the aftermath of Earth being all fucked, somebody sees an opportunity, and that somebody is Mysterio. And he takes that opportunity. And this is what the fuck I'm saying. They fucked up, dude. They've got to bring back.
Mysterio earlier today.
We did. And I'm just saying, man, like, because I just feel like in Far From Home, it wasn't until like that scene near the end where like he starts really fucking with his head and all the illusions and stuff. Like then you're like, oh shit, like that's Mysterio. And so this episode plays with that more, and like the main hero is like Riri Williams in this one.
Okay.
And fun to see her back as well. I enjoyed her in Wakanda Forever. But I just loved seeing Mysterio get to play like this big bad villain again, back in action. And something we'll talk about later also just made me back on Mysterio again, where I'm like, well, I hope Sony's not done making their villain movies just yet, because now I'm like, hey, yo, can I make a Mysterio movie? We don't even need Spider-Man. I just
you really don't.
You really don't. Of all the fucking villains that they made movies for, like, why would you not do Mysterio? Like, that, you could do so many things with that. But
or Quentin Beck or whatever.
Yes, fucking Quentin Beck's a fucking badass, man. He, even as a kid, there was something about Mysterio that always, like, I was very attracted to that villain. Just his look and like his powers. Like I was just like, he was always very intriguing to me in the comics.
Even when I went through my little stint where I read a shit ton of Spider-Man comics, like some of like the Mysterio stories or some of like my favorite like comics I had pulled up, like, oh yeah, I get it. I get a Mysterio comic. And I get never disappointed. Like, yeah, it's the same shit, but like he's always able to, keep Spider-Man on his head. Like Spider-Man can't rely on his powers to beat Mysterio. He has to use like his wits about him to be able to overcome the illusions that he's dealing with.
And what I love about Mysterio, and they kind of touch on this in the Tom Holland one, where Mysterio loses, but does he? You know what I mean? Like, cause it's like, yes, he might have died, but his illusions can keep going. He can keep pulling the wool over people's eyes. He can keep manipulating people. But even that aside, the psychological impact a villain like Mysterio has on people will outlive him forever. Like, he could be long dead, but you're so fucked up from this experience where you're just like, is he dead? What's real? I don't know what's real anymore. Right. Like, you're just like so like terrified because you're just, like I said, they barely touch on it in that Tom Holland movie where like when Happy shows up and he's just like, is it really you? It's just like, that's about the extent of his shakiness after something like that. But yeah, I mean, I know I pitched you a movie not too long ago about people losing their grip on reality and just like constantly like nothing is real. Like it just keeps and I just like that concept of like completely like just being lied to so much by some force that like you just start losing your fucking mind.
Yeah,
just like,
which we're also gonna get into.
We are gonna get into again. So I watched What If Season 3. Ended with a whimper, in my opinion. I don't know how other people were feeling about the finale, but I feel like
especially if it's like the end of like this What If series, like that's.
And it's like I feel like it's going to obviously come up again in like Secret Wars or something like that. Like, right. I'm sure there will be more ramifications to this.
Yeah, more of a payoff later.
But like, I don't know. It just was like one of those things, kind of like with Agatha, where I just was like, oh, okay. And now it's over, I guess. I mean, I enjoyed this finale more than Agatha's finale, but like, it did just kind of, I was like, oh, okay, and I guess that's it. No post-credit scene or nothing. I was like, okay, well, all right. And that's that, I suppose.
And that is that.
But yeah, I watched What If. Creature Commandos just finished up this week.
Okay.
I'm excited to go back. Honestly, since episode 1, I've been excited to go back and rewatch this whole show. just because, like, I had mentioned to Shep before it came out that I was thinking about watching at least the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker again before watching this. And then in episode 1, they drop references to those 2 specific movies, and I was like, well, son of a bitch. I was like, I guess I should have watched those 2 again. And now I'm excited to just kind of go back and just take the whole journey from the Suicide Squad through Creature Commandos. Because I love these characters. I fucking love James Gunn. And all these goddamn haters on the internet, all these Snyder bros who are just like, oh, he's going to ruin everything. Bro, show me one movie that James Gunn has made that was a piece of shit, because I'm not aware of it. I just feel like he has a hell of a scorecard. I mean, the Guardians movies, the Suicide Squad, like, I love these fucking movies. And I have no reason to believe that whatever he's getting ready to do with Superman is going to be bad.
Right.
But I like Creature Commandos too, because he does what James Gunn does best, which is he subverts expectations. You think he's going to zig, and then he zags. Even if you think you got his zigs and zags figured out, he still does something that you're like, fuck. Like, I didn't think about
zag, and then he zigs.
Yeah. Fucking. And then he's always so good at making you love, like, these crazy characters, whether that be Rocket or Groot or, whoever, King Shark, Polka Dot Man. Like, he always takes those outlandish characters and makes you, like, really fall in love. And, like, I've seen online, like, a lot of people, their favorite episode was the Weasel episode. Because, like, basically, after the first episode where they establish the team, everybody kind of gets an episode dedicated to themselves.
Right.
From that point forward. There's the overarching story that they keep flashing back to, but then they, like, also delve into the origins of all of these people one by one, which does make it feel like issues of a comic book. That, like, you're going to get to sit down and just watch it straight through.
Yeah. And
I feel like that's going to feel like more of a complete experience. But, no, it was cool. I mean, I enjoyed it. It's very James Gunn. It's very, like, it's crazy. It's funny. It's emotional. Like, you might cry when you're like, oh, God, like, what? Why is Weasel making me cry? You know what I mean? Like, of all the fucking people. But, no, I definitely enjoyed it. Technically, this was the, like, official start of the new DCU, so I know some people are like, oh, no, I don't count it. Superman is the start. It's like, well, whatever. James Gunn's the head of the studio, and he says this is the first one, so.
Yep, so what are you going to do?
So what are you going to do? But, yeah, I enjoyed it, and then just to cap off my shows, I just finished The Bear last night. I know you're still catching up yourself, so I'm sure we'll get to, like, talk about it a little more.
Yeah, we'll have a bear talk.
Bear talk. But for my money, one of the best shows on television. I mean, it's just fucking excellent.
Yeah,
and
I enjoy it.
I just love.
I've enjoyed what I've seen, I guess I should say.
Because Belle asked me at one point recently, she's like, "Is it weird that this is like my comfort show?" I'm like, I understand the question because it's such a goddamn stressful show sometimes, especially like in season 2 and 3. There are just episodes like, whew, like, because there's one in season 3 that we just watched that, like, I look over at Belle and, like, when the episode was over, she just started fucking crying. And I'm like, that's exactly how I felt watching the Christmas episode in season 2. Like, I felt like I escaped a hostage situation. Like, because I was all by myself when I watched it, so I was able to just really get into it. Which for me, that's my preferred way of watching The Bear. Like, I want to get into it if I'm going to watch it.
Right.
And
really dive into their world.
That episode is just so fucking intense. And all it is just like their family Christmas, but their family is just so fucked sometimes, and just all the arguing and the talking over each other, and it's just like so much, and the ending just escalates and escalates and escalates. And I remember the first time I watched that, it ended, I sat on the couch and I just fucking sobbed. I just sobbed because I was just like, I just felt like I had all this shit that just built up over the last hour of watching this, because it was like a longer episode, and it was over, and I was just like, and I just like fell apart, bro. And she had that with this episode in season 3. But it'll do that to you. I'm just like, but I love the growth in the show. I love the characters. I love like I feel like that's why it's so easy to get emotional over the show, because they endear you to every single one of these fucking characters along the way. Right. I love because Belle was having similar reactions as you were, because I've basically watched season 1 like 3 times now. And like a lot of the things that like you were kind of saying about certain characters in season 1, Belle was also kind of having those opinions. And I'm just both times sitting there like, oh, just wait. I was like, just wait and see where these characters go in season 2, because it's just fantastic. I love it. It's definitely one of my favorite shows. But yeah, I'm excited for you to catch up so we can talk more on that.
Hell yeah.
So what you got, bud?
So I have the Florida Project, which I felt like was all right.
Yeah.
Willem Dafoe, I thought, was the best part of the whole movie.
Yep.
And the rest of it was just these shithead kids doing shithead things and had a bad mom. And that was like, and then there was consequences and the kid got taken away.
Yep, that is one succinct way to put that entire movie.
That's pretty much in the nutshell what happened. Like, again, there was like, sometimes like, I feel like when watching like something like that, I want there to be like some sort of like growth within like a character. You know what I'm saying? Like I want it because I felt like the little girl was just an asshole the whole time.
Right, and never quit.
And then just and would never like learned a lesson, never like really grew up or had any sort of like realization of like her, like, I mean, granted she was like a 6-year-old living at a budget motel pretty much.
Right. With basically, I mean, practically like a teenage mom. You know?
Yeah, with minimal supervision.
Yes, yeah.
And then people catering to her bad behaviors. Even Willem Dafoe, as much as he like threatened to kick them out like would reprimand them, would still be like, oh well.
He had a soft spot.
You know. So and it's like, you know, I mean, I guess towards like the very end, like when she finds out that like she's going to go to another family, that's when it's like, oh shit, and then they run away to Disneyland somehow.
Well, I mean, I don't know how clear they make that in the movie, but they live like right next to Disney.
Yeah, like, I mean, I knew that much.
Yeah, like so that's how she did it. I mean, she just
I knew that they lived.
Or how did she get into the park? I guess is the better question.
How did 2 kids were able to run away from a group of adults to go to Disneyland?
Beats the fuck out of me.
I might have missed them.
I don't know. I liked the ending. I thought it was sweet.
I mean, it was cool that she had this friend and they went and she like gave her like one last good memory together and stuff like that. Like they had.
What year did that? 2014, I think. Or
I want to say like 2016, somewhere around there.
Yeah, you might be right. Because when that movie came out, I saw it in theaters when the art theater was still around, and it was one of those where I feel like I probably would have felt different watching it at home, for sure.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it on my first viewing, but more so than that, like that started my love affair of Willem Dafoe. I mean, it's not that I didn't know Willem Dafoe before that.
Right.
Like obviously growing up watching Spider-Man. But before the Florida Project, he was the guy who haunted my nightmares as a child as the Green Goblin. Like,
well, because I enjoyed him like Boondock Saints and stuff like that. Yeah, so
like I'm sure I saw him in other things, but never like put 2 and 2 together. But when he did that role, like he had a lot of buzz. I'm still pissed that he lost that year for Best Supporting Actor. He got nominated, which was great, but
definitely deserved.
I don't think he won. But it was from that point forward that I was like, anything that Willem Dafoe does, I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah. And I think my favorite scene was when there was like the pedo guy hanging around, and he like. Which is the scene they use at the Oscars all the time. They kicked him out. He's like, oh, I thought you were thirsty. Drink it now. It smacks it up and get the fuck
Get the fuck out of here. Yeah, I loved him in that movie.
Like kept like just like as soon as he's like nope.
Because otherwise it's a nasty movie. Like it's not sugarcoating anything.
Yeah, I mean I can appreciate like the realism that they portrayed of like what it probably would have been like for kids.
And there's like a name for it too, because I remember when the movie came out, they had like a thing to like raise awareness for. Like there's a specific name. I forget if it's called like Invisible Communities or something like that, or Invisible. But it's basically like these people who are more or less homeless.
Yeah,
like living in these hotels in the shadow of Disneyland, more or less. You know, because I know they had like a fundraiser for shit like that. Like when the movie came out, trying to raise awareness of this kind of shit and. It was interesting. Definitely, again, I mean, you could probably put this disclaimer on all of A24's releases. It's not for everybody.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that, like, I didn't enjoy it, but that wasn't, like, blown away.
It is one of those just slice of life movies. It just is what it is. Like, there isn't going to be any, like...
Yeah, it's just, like...
theatrical thing.
Yeah, here is these characters within this time period, and then that's what it is.
Yep.
And, I mean, that's fine.
And other than Willem Dafoe, there are like next to no likable characters in that movie. Like even the kids, like you said, they're fucking assholes.
Yeah, extremely so. I'd say the other mom.
She was okay.
She wasn't bad because she did keep her when she found out that her son helped burn down the old condo.
Right.
She's like, okay, you're not going to hang around these kids anymore.
Yes. Yeah.
And stuff like that, and then got the shit beat out of her.
Which is stupid. Yeah.
But I don't know. I mean, because like the main mom, I think Haley was her name.
I think so.
Was just like so like. Petty and childish.
Yeah.
And it's like I've met a lot of people.
I was gonna say
that, like because I mean I can relate to meeting some of those characters like in real life, and that is like a good portrayal of what those people are like.
Yeah, I definitely was gonna say Haley is a very familiar character. Like it's definitely like. Oh, I've met a Haley or two in my life, for sure.
You know, and just like, oh, well, it's just like, just always like undermining everything that Willem Dafoe said, like, oh, and like mocking him like, to his face. So it's like, bad kids. And then like, I'm like, or like when the other friend like cut her off and like wasn't going to give her free food anymore and told her to stay with her son, like they went there. And she was like, get whatever you want. Like, no, get more. You can get... And, like, stayed there all day just to be obnoxious towards her friend because she was mad.
And to be like, we don't have the money to pay for any of this.
Oh, I think they did.
Oh, they did? Because I thought she didn't. And then they just did all that just to be a dick.
I know, because then they made her box up the food and to go and all that stuff. I think she just...
Yeah, very petty.
Yeah. And then stole the magic bands... And then sold them for money, and then was prostituting and stuff like that. And it's just, I mean, it wasn't a bad movie, by any means.
It's just a very specific kind of movie, for sure.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of movies I like. It's almost be like a rule of thumb that I watch it twice.
I feel
like some movies don't deserve it, like. If like, especially like if a movie is just like if a movie is solely like a twist based movie,
right?
Then I don't need to watch it twice. Like if the payoff is the twist and I get the twist, then there's no need to really watch it a second time unless you're looking for the signs of like, oh, like here's like little clues.
Yeah, depending on the twist. Yeah, like you said, if it's like reliant on the twist.
Yeah,
because there are some movies that like once you know what happens, it's just not the same.
It's like, okay, well,
it'll never be that good again.
Yeah, it's not gonna blow my mind twice.
Or like you said, there's the flip side where it's like, okay, there was a twist, but you can go back and be like, oh fuck, like okay, all right.
Here's these little things connecting, like little signs.
Yeah.
But so I mean, I'll probably watch it again, and sometimes I need to know what a movie is
for sure
first before I can fully be able to start to appreciate it for what's happening.
I agree with that. I was even thinking that recently, just with like a lot of these movies at the end of the year, like Challengers and The Substance, and like I feel like most of the movies I did find myself really enjoying this year were all movies that I was like, I have got to watch that a second time, like just to fully take it in and like fully process it. Like I think what I saw was a good movie, but like it was so much, or like not what I was expecting it to be.
Right.
That like going in with the right mindset definitely helps.
And then I watched Greta.
Yeah.
Which was decent. I had a coworker recommend it to me. She's like, "Have you seen Greta?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "Well, you should watch it." And so I did. And I don't know. It was alright. It's pretty much about like this girl who moves to New York City with a friend, and then finds a bag on the subway, and is a good Samaritan, returns it. And then it turns out the lady she returns it to is a little cuckoo bananas.
Yeah.
And then there's like a whole... And then that movie pretty much goes on with this stalker lady and how she's crazy. And then, I don't know, I have gripes about it. I don't know if you're going to watch it or not, so I don't know how.
Maybe someday.
Don't want to get too into it, because then I'm just going to ruin the movie for you.
I feel you. Yeah.
So we'll just leave it at that. It was decent. It had a nice little... It was alright. I liked what they did towards the end. I was like, ooh. And then, but yeah, overall, I'd give it like a gentleman's 3 out of 5.
Okay.
Like, it wasn't like mind blowing, but it wasn't bad either. You know what I'm saying?
I know I told you, like, every so often, it doesn't happen a lot, but every so often my mom will just like see a trailer for something, see an advertisement for something, and be like really about it. And she's like, I really want to see this movie. And Greta was one of those movies for whatever fucking reason. She caught an ad for it. She kept wanting to go see it. And I don't think it actually like really played in theaters that long.
Yeah.
If it did come around here. So I don't know if she ever did end up watching it or not, but I know that was one she was like very excited for.
I thought Chloe Grace Moretz did like a good job in her role, because it was like kind of the first thing I've seen her do as like since Carrie.
Oh, okay.
So at least that I'm familiar with.
I feel you.
I feel like she was also in other things that I have seen, but the performance don't like stand out to me.
Yeah, I got you.
But as like a lead, like this, like it was like her movie.
The only thing that comes to mind for me is this movie called Shadow in the Cloud,
which I did not see.
Yeah, I'll have to let you borrow that one sometimes. It's interesting.
And then the last one before we get, I guess, into the last two of our movies, I watched Kimi. Which,
Kimi
I don't know. It was alright. It was pretty much about this like person who works on Kimi, which is like the AI service or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And she's like,
oh, so Zoe Kravitz is not Kimi?
No, Zoe Kravitz is not Kimi.
Gotcha.
She is Alice, I'm pretty sure.
Gotcha. Okay.
I can see the confusion, because I also thought she was going to be Kimi, just purely based off of the picture.
Yeah.
But no, it's pretty much about like she overhears a crime go down. Mm-hmm. Like, yeah, she's like listening to like audio feedback to like help fix responses and stuff like that, or whatever her job is. And so then she tries to contact corporate, and corporate's just kind of like, don't worry about it. We're about to launch our IPO in a week, so we don't want any bad press. It is what it is. It's not our responsibility.
Yeah.
And she's like, but it's a crime. And so then like they try to, just make it go away. And then it's pretty much like what the whole movie's about. Like and then they're like sending people after her because she knows too much. And yada yada. And then everything gets resolved and then it's over. So I mean, it was all right, but it wasn't like anything special by any means. But it was short enough. It was only like an hour and a half, I think. So it's like it was a nice little watch. But
I feel you.
Not too much. Not too much. Like there was nothing new really. There was like no fucking breaking the mold type shit going on. So it's just like cool. Girl spots a crime and obviously a greedy corporation tries to cover it up. that was Kimi. But that's all I really have to say about it.
Well, then let's close this thing out. We first and foremost, we were right to split this into two parts.
Yeah.
Good thing we. I was going to press forward.
I had a feeling. I was like, we're gonna get into some stuff.
So to cap all this off, we both watched the Smile movies.
Yep.
Which Smile 2 ended up in both of our top 10s. Was it in your top 10?
I believe so. I have it right here. I would like to say it is.
I don't know. I haven't listened to that episode yet, so I don't remember. But while you're looking for that, I saw... Yes, okay. So I saw the first Smile, I don't know, a year or so ago now. And it scared the fuck out of me, to be quite frank. I mean, I watched it in broad daylight. And again, just very few movies. Like I was telling Belle about this. Like I watch a lot of scary movies, a lot of horror movies in my day, and I really don't often get the feeling of like actual like goosebumps or like chills, like true like terror. Like the way I described it to her was like, if you're like, you know, well, I guess this is very specific to us, but there's that like trail that we would take through the woods as kids, right? And it's like, if it was nighttime and you were going to walk through that path, just that feeling, you know, you know what I mean?
Especially at night.
Just like that feeling of like pure terror that's just like gripping you. And I don't get that in movies a lot. Like I don't typically get that experience a lot. Like you might get something like Hereditary that's like, it's very dread filled, you know? Like, and there are some moments of like, oh God, like, you know? But like, I don't know, man. Both of the Smile movies, for whatever fucking reason, just get under my goddamn skin, bro. Like, they just creep me the fuck out. And from start to finish, I remember watching that first one, broad daylight, just sitting there in front of my TV, and like, I think Belle was in the other room. I think I watched it early in the morning or some shit. And she woke up, and I'm just like, oh God. Like, I was fucking shook, bro. Like, as soon as the ending comes, like, I think I actually audibly, like, yelped one time near the end. Something happened, and I was like, ah! Like, you know, like, it actually got a shout out of me. And meanwhile, I'm just like, ugh, just chills, goosebumps the whole time. And then I felt the same thing with the second movie. It just, like, fucking chilled me to my bones. And I was just like, God, what is it about these fucking movies, bro? I don't know. I find them very terrifying.
Well, I think, and we touched on this a little bit, even like with Mysterio, where it's like you don't know what's real.
Yeah.
Like, because people keep, a couple people have asked me, I watched them yesterday, back to back,
Right.
which I feel is the best way to watch them if you're going to watch them.
It was nice to watch them back to back, for sure.
Yeah, just especially because it's like that literally like the second one picks up pretty much right where the first one ends.
Yeah.
So people ask me like, well, which one did you think was better? And it's like it's a toss up. I would I've been stewing on it all day.
Yeah.
I would go as far as to say that the first one, I felt like did a better job executing like the story itself.
Yeah.
Like I felt like even like with not knowing like what was real and what was fake, I thought they did a better job in the first one portraying that. Even like, there was moments where like I thought it was interesting that it was someone who like did work with people who had mental health disabilities, and so she like could, she knows she's not crazy, what I'm saying? So it's like, but everything she's doing makes her seem like a fucking nutcase, because it's like, even like with bringing the cat to the birthday party, that scene, it's like, stop fucking staring at me, like I'm not crazy.
And then to fall through the glass table right after.
And then the scene with the therapist where she is talking to her, comes to her house, and then the therapist calls her, and it's like, hey, just want to check up on you. I'm not really happy with the way that we ended things, and it pans back over to therapist with that fucking the smile is so goddamn creepy, dude. Like
it is. They knew what the fuck they were doing.
It's fucking unnerving.
And it's funny because like I feel like universally, like these movies have been loved, but universally everybody felt the same way off of the marketing of like, oh, it's what is this, the Blumhouse movie of the week? You know, like it's just other than I do remember when we whatever the fuck we went to go see. There was a trailer for Smile, and there's that part where like the sister comes out to the car, and then she's just like, and even when we were in the theater watching the trailer, we were both like, "What the fuck?"
And I forgot about that in the trailer. So when it happened again in the movie,
what the fuck?
I think I said "what the fuck" out loud. Like I said, I think "what the fuck" more in the first one than the second one.
Right.
And I would say like the second one was really leading up to be my favorite of the two. Until the ending. The ending kind of lost me a little bit. I would say that I would say that the lead actress was better in the second one.
Oh, for sure.
Than the first one.
Not that the first one. Not
to knock her.
Yeah. I don't know how the fuck to pronounce her name. Sosie, I think, but it's like, Kevin Bacon's daughter.
Yeah. And, Sosie Bacon. I called her Saucy Bacon.
Saucy Bacon.
The first time, I'm like, well,
that's just cruel. If that's what they named her daughter. She was phenomenal.
She did a really good job.
But like I've been hearing since Smile 2 Naomi Scott. Ever since it came out back in October,
such a good job.
All I've been hearing is people being like, "It's probably not going to happen," but Naomi Scott deserves a fucking Oscar nomination for this role. Like,
she crushed. Like even just like with her facial expressions, I love the sitting down backward slide.
Oh,
she does a couple times. Like she does it the first time when the dealer kills himself, and she's sitting there and like, oh shit, and like slides to the wall. And then there's another time where she's doing it and then like does the slide. I'm like flawlessly, like fucking butter, dude. I'm like,
and honestly, it was even after the fact. I was like, people were really hyping up the performance, and it was really good. But like after the fact, I started like thinking on it. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck yes. She put in so much work. She did all of her singing. She did all of her dancing. Like, she's not a pop star, but like, she comes across as a pop star so like fluidly in that second movie that it's just like, wow. And that's the other thing too, is like, they're tied together by the event, you know, like of the entity and everything, but they're such different movies.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
Like,
because the second one is a lot more of like, what you don't know what's
they double down on the reality bending a lot. But what I really enjoy about that is like, not only were they like, okay, well, this chick was a therapist and like, but this chick's a pop star. She's more in the public light. Like she had a private life. She has a public life. And that alone was
I definitely did enjoy that they leaned more into like,
oh, bro,
the persona.
The fucking scene where like she thinks the guy is in her apartment and the clothes are on the floor. And then it shows like the skid marks in the underwear. I was like, bro, like, why is this getting to me so much? I'm like, that's so gross.
Like one scene that I really enjoyed in the second one is when all the people were in her apartment, and then like they just kept on like just getting closer, but like with like that stop motion, and I enjoyed it because it's like that correlation of like you are and like these everyone's you're in the public like and you have all these people trying to like suffocate you essentially and stuff like that, and so I really enjoyed it. I guess I just feel like because like around the time where I kind of like got upset with the direction that they were going was when she is in the mental, well, she's in like that private room or whatever, and then she like kills her mom. And then she just escapes. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? I was like, because she's like, it's not real, slapping herself and shit, covering herself in the blood.
Crazy.
And then she puts on the hoodie, but then her whole fucking gown is still covered in blood.
That was honestly the number one, like, that was my Philly thing since silly. I was just like,
Didn't try to
take off the gown. Like, I was like,
try to tuck it in or nothing.
That part threw me because I'm like, that blood's just gonna soak through that fucking hoodie. But,
and then someone immediately, as soon as she walked over, she's like,
"Is that blood?"
It was like, "Oh, that's a lot of blood." And then it's like, "What's going on?" She's like, "Oh, get the fuck away from me!" And then they did the same thing, like with the therapist, with the friend who was never there.
Which honestly, I even thought that very early on in the movie. I was like, I'd almost fucking bet she's not even there. But I thought they were gonna pull that rug out way sooner. But the fact that they played the long, because I was just explaining all of this to Belle, because I know she won't watch these. I'm like, if I'm that fucking scared by these movies, she is definitely not going to watch these movies. But
she would never want to take photos.
Bro.
Frowned.
I had that shit clocked, bro, because I was just like, dude, this demon's in it for the long game, bro.
Yeah.
Like, but that's kind of what I brought up to you when I pitched that movie to you, of like this demon playing the long game, like letting you believe that you've lived all of this life that you have not lived. It's been moments, you know, and you just experienced
I
years.
guess like even like towards the very end where it's like none of this is real. And then you go to like her opening up the show,
which again was something I predicted when I saw the fucking trailers for this movie. I was like, I will be goddamned if she kills herself in front of an audience of people.
And so now the parasite gets to infect. It's gonna take over the world,
bro. I'm like, sign me up. I'm like, I don't know how the fuck you're gonna pull off Smile 3, but I am definitely in line for tickets. I'm just like, how the fuck are you gonna do this movie?
You know, so...
Because they are doing Smile 3. And so, like, I mean, you want to talk about changing up a whole other time. That changes things. That's a big change.
Yeah, because now you have, like 10,000 people who just witnessed you fucking kill yourself.
Right, and this demon's just going to latch on to these thousands of people. Like, what is this going to look like? You know, what happens?
Yeah, because it was just one on one.
Yeah.
And then, like, you only have a week. So it's gonna be like mass hysteria, pretty much.
Which it does. It's just so curious. Like, especially like I'm assuming, because what's crazy to me is this director Parker Finn. This is it. This is what he's made. Is these two movies, and he made a short film that like was like a predecessor to Smile called Laura Hasn't Slept. Which Laura is the patient that comes in at the beginning of the first movie.
Got you.
And so it is kind of like a prequel of sorts, but he made that short, did the rounds, people were into it, and he got to make his feature. But it is just another thing I found interesting was like with the differences between the two movies. Sosie Bacon's character was told off the bat, this is what it is. Like her therapist, who was like, or not the therapist, but her patient was like, I am a psychology major. Like I know what this sounds like.
PhD candidate.
Yeah, like she's like, I know what the fuck I'm talking about. Like, I'm not crazy. But she lays all this stuff out so that like moving forward, as things started to happen, at least she had like a precedence for like, oh, that's what she was talking about. Yeah. And like now, whereas Naomi Scott's character did not have that luxury.
No, not until about halfway.
Yeah. It's like, thank God Morris showed up.
Yeah. Well, it's like, my brother went through this, so I'm going to help
that brief
you.
shot of fucking craziness. But,
so.
Oh, man. But I don't know. Have you actually answered the question? Which one was your favorite?
I'd say, yeah, I think I said I enjoyed the concept more in one and enjoyed the acting performance more in two.
Gotcha.
Is how I would
step around the answer.
Yeah. I enjoyed like the premise of Smile. I mean, I guess that maybe I was just too much reality bending that it lost me a little bit there towards the end. I think
it does do a lot. And honestly, when you're saying all that out loud about like the when she's at the rehab clinic with her mom and all that stuff, like honestly, I should have known. I should have fucking known. Because like everything you're saying, I even had those thoughts of like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah. It just seemed out of place for it. Because like they never like, like the parasite could like
anytime I've watched a movie where reality isn't quite what it seems or something, or even if they don't do that the whole movie, but they're about to like drop a twist on you where it's like, oh, it's all fake. One movie that comes to mind, spoilers, including for you if you haven't seen this, 47 Meters Down, the shark movie with Mandy Moore. At a certain point in that movie, I was like, fuck this fucking movie. This is so stupid. Like, it's just like, I was so pissed off at everything that was happening because I'm like, this is just the dumbest fucking movie I've ever seen past a certain point. But then the ending brings it around and is like, oh, well, actually, that's because none of this has been real from this point forward. Like, this is what happened X amount of time ago. I'm like, okay. That makes a lot more sense because the movie suddenly got way more convenient for some fucking reason. And I'm just like, bullshit. That wouldn't happen. That wouldn't happen. That wouldn't happen. Well, that's because it wouldn't and it didn't. So
yeah, that kind of reminds me of another movie that I watched, Repo Men.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Kind of like that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting. But yeah, another thing that I like, again, with like the differences between the two that, I don't know. I do feel like I'm kind of favoring Smile 2. Like, if I had to pick one or the other.
Yeah. I might let Stu more and let the reality.
Again, it feels like one that I need to watch a second time. Because now I have seen Smile twice and can like, okay, these are my thoughts on it.
Right.
And I do love it. I think it's a great movie.
Because even like in Smile 1, like when she's facing the parasite and like burns it.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, well, as soon as like she was going to the house and like Joel called her or whatever, I was like, well, I know exactly how this movie's gonna end. She's gonna pass it on to him, and then lo and behold, what I don't understand that I thought about this is like, what if you just turn around? Like, what if you just don't watch the suicide? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, that's true.
Does that?
But it's not like any of these people know that, you know what I mean?
Well,
like
Joel kind of knew that.
Well, true.
Joel knew that if whoever saw the suicide, it would pass on to
Joel
the next
should have
person.
closed his goddamn eyes. Look away, child!
Yeah, why do you want to watch someone burn alive anyways?
Right. Well, I think it's more of like a shock thing.
I mean,
like, you just can't fucking look away.
Well, I understood that more with Naomi Scott's character, because dude just started bashing his head in with a fucking...
Which is wild.
45-pound weight.
Yeah.
So... that made more sense as to why she couldn't. Like, I would be in shock then, but Joel, being a police officer who has seen
and knew what this was,
that
I just felt
like a little bit of a cheap write off. But I did enjoy that they brought him back in the beginning of the first one, where he did try to. He was like, yeah.
I didn't realize till after the fact that whole opening scene is a oneer. It's all just one continuous shot. Like, from the moment the movie starts to when he fucking bites it. And I was just like, damn. And I love that opening scene. I thought it was awesome.
You weren't supposed to be here.
You weren't supposed to be here. Like, even his acting is fucking phenomenal in those, like, few moments.
Yeah.
But I also liked,
good end to a character.
Yes.
Good way to pass it on.
It was one of those things where it's like, it's too bad that we didn't get to see more of him moving forward. But I do like the way... they did it.
Like, it's been 6 days later.
It didn't feel like the cheesy movie that it could have been. You know? It didn't feel like they... I mean, yes, there were certain things that you're obviously just going to touch on again, but it didn't feel like they retread the same story twice. Like, because the other big element of it was like, okay, in the first one, Chick is a therapist. Like, this is what she does. Like, she has her... trauma already from her mom dying when she was young and stuff.
Because she didn't call for help.
But then, in the second one, you kind of play with it in a different way, where Naomi Scott is like a known a substance abuser, you know? And that...
Who from what it showed in the movie, was the one who caused
the
accident by being
Fun fact,
a psycho bitch.
her boyfriend that dies in the accident is Jack Nicholson's son.
Really?
Yeah.
I the one thing I will say about Smile 2 is I wish they would have explained like exactly what happened between her and Greta.
Yeah.
Because I thought they were going to allude that maybe that was supposed to be her boyfriend that she was with.
I think it's more so she was just being a bitch. She just kind of like went in her little spiral.
Yeah, and they just cut people off.
Which, I mean,
Which happens.
That's understandable. I feel like, I don't know, I'd weirdly maybe start putting Smile 2 with the drug movies, just because like there is this whole underlying like
recovery.
There's like this whole subplot of like substance abuse and like her dealing with like addiction and like how these things have affected her life and why people don't fucking believe her when these things are happening too. And the demon only plays on that as much as it can.
Like when the mom was like, I'm just going to ask,
are you doing drugs?
Are you using again? She's like, what the fuck?
Which, it's like
but the perfect candidate. But now your room's trashed and they're only
you're acting a certain type of way again.
Yeah, you're acting fucking like crazy. So, and then one scene I really enjoyed was when she was doing like the speech.
Yeah.
In front of everyone, because like her makeup was off, like smudged on her face, and she's just like talking about like, oh, she's like, y'all are having a fun time. I'm not. I'm sober. And then everyone's just kind of like, and then and then she knocks that old lady fucking clean off the stage.
Right, yeah. And it's man, I don't know. There's just a lot about the sum of the parts in Smile 2. I think I would give it to Smile 2 as my favorite.
Yeah. It's
but they're both so good.
Yeah. I mean, especially like with it.
But fuck the husband and Smile, the first one.
Yeah, he was a prick.
He was a piece of shit.
He was a goddamn dick.
Ain't worth a shit. They shouldn't be together.
I think I'm really scared and I'm worried for my well-being.
Right, you
what
fucking
the
pussy
fuck?
bitch. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna call your therapist and I'm gonna, deflect it all on you. And he's like, well, I'm doing this for you. And she was like, no. You don't want to deal with anything, and if it's not easy, like, why the fuck are we getting married? She's like, I don't know.
This is a great question.
It goes back to ex-boyfriend. But awesome. Good movies. They were both good. They were almost tied, I'd say.
Yeah.
It's almost hard to pick.
Yeah.
I
feel like it would be a potato chip situation. Like I feel like I wouldn't be able to sit down to watch one without wanting to watch the next one.
Yeah.
But yeah, good ones to end on.
I thought so.
And now we're all caught up. Oh shit! And part 2 even was longer than part 1. How about that?
Oh yeah.
But hopefully everybody's enjoying the show and stuff. Yeah. We'd love to, for those listening, we'd love some feedback. We'd love to know how to improve the show in the year to come.
Any suggestions? If you want us to like maybe do more like focus on like
certain movies or like maybe get into certain things more, explain things, fun fact, whatever you're wanting out of this, we'd like to know, and if it feels appropriate to apply to the show and what we're doing, I mean, then we'll apply those changes.
Maybe we'll have some more guests.
Yeah, I know that's some people have expressed interest.
So that can be fun to do. Yeah. And see how that goes.
Phil and Chase watch everything, but most people watch something.
So. Exactly. So there's always going to be something to talk about.
Yes.
On here. So.
But so that'll kick off our year, and we will catch you next week.
Yep. See you guys.
Peace.